Hey, Alec.
Hi, Tom. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. How's it going?
Good, thank you. My name is Alec Toombs. I'm here with the Film Yap of Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm here today with Tom Waller, writer, producer, director of Cave Rescue, which will be available in select theaters and on VOD beginning this Friday, August 5th. Thank you for your time today, Tom.
Hi. You make it sound like I did everything when you read my name and my titles like that. Of course, it was a massive collaboration. It wasn't just me that made this film, as you can see when you watched it, I'm sure.
Sure. My first question is, what is it like to work with some of the real folks this story is based off of?
So it was an absolute privilege to work with not only real divers, but real heroes. I mean, these guys, they went headfirst into that cave not knowing the outcome in a way. And, they obviously, they assessed their risks, but, we're dealing with unprecedented situation and they're working completely outside of normal operating procedures. So for them, it was just as much a challenge of how to get the kids out as it was for me, like, how do I make this film? There were so many moving parts, so many elements I had to think about. So one thing I didn't have to think about was the fact that my actors, or rather my lead characters, they already knew how to cave dive. Jim Warney, who's basically an amateur cave diver, but he's certainly skilled at what he does, and he's an electrician by trade usually, but on the weekends he likes to go cave diving, and he had a specialist set of skills that could be helpful in this incident, and he just offered himself up to go out there, and who better to play Jim Warney in the film than the actual guy himself.
What led you to want to make this film?
So, my mother's from Thailand. Actually, she's from the north of Thailand, from Chiang Mai, so not far from the cave itself in Chiang Rai province. And, I was watching the news like everyone else on the planet. And every day I was thinking, are these kids going to get out? Is it going to end like a disaster movie, or is this going to be a happy ending? And I think if it wasn't for the happy ending, I probably wouldn't have made the movie, but because this was a story of hope, a story of the world coming together, I just thought there was something interesting that I wanted to show audiences, a kind of insider's look, if you like, at what happened in that cave and how those kids got brought out. On the news, we had a lot of journalists saying and speculating on what might have been going on, but there was no kind of first-hand reporting from any individual about what went on inside the cave. And I thought that my film certainly could lift the lid on what really went on and the rescue operation that took place outside the cave, because the kids inside, they were completely unaware of the fact that there were thousands of people outside.
Sure. I really enjoyed the scenery and the depictions of the mission itself. I read you shot at some of the real locations. What was that like?
So to be honest, going back was a little bit like giving my lead characters anyway, a kind of sense memory, and they got quite emotional actually during some of those scenes especially where we were filming at the real cave, Tam Luang Cave in Chiang Rai province. For them, this was a big part of their, I suppose, of their recent life, because as soon as the rescue took place, the media kind of swarmed on these civilians, if you like, and suddenly Jim and the other divers were kind of became like minor celebrities. I mean, people were always asking them, their story and asking them to tell their story for newspaper interviews, and for they were asked to be on documentaries. And for me, it was really about trying to tell the story authentically, to try and show people what really went on. So taking them back to the real place, that was the best way to be authentic about it. It was not just to do everything in a studio in the safe confines of a swimming pool, which is where we did some of the scenes with the kids. But we went to the real caves. We went to water caves, which had water all year round, and there's also snakes all year round, and creepy crawlies and spiders. And I can tell you that the crew were pretty happy when I would call cut and we could leave the cave. So they weren't interested in being in the cave for more than a few minutes. And if you think about those kids being in there for 18 days, it was, sure, what an ordeal.
Sure. They always say never shoot with children and never shoot on or around water, and you did both with the movie. It was probably a large undertaking.
To be honest, I'm a glutton for punishment, and I also had to don a wetsuit and go inside there with the rest of the cast and the crew. And working with kids, I mean, I've got my own teenage sons, and I just thought to myself, what it would have been like if my two children were in that cave, and they often go exploring. on their own. And I kind of, I would have been the first person on site to try and get those kids out, having no idea of what it took for these divers to drag them out through those caves, going into those tunnels, not knowing the outcome.
I'm curious, have you seen The Rescue or 13 Lives?
I've seen The Rescue, the documentary that Nat Geo made. I thought was fascinating. Of course, it features some of the same participants in my film, so it was great to see another side of the story because Jim Warney and the other divers who appear in Cave Rescue, they also told their stories on screen in The Rescue, the documentary that was made. But I haven't seen 13 Lives. I'm super excited to see what Ron Howard, who had a mega bucks Hollywood budget to play with, what he did with the story. From what I hear, it's also an engrossing, emotional ride, and I think that there's still room for people to see all the movies about this incredible story and see all the angles, all the different sides and perspectives of this amazing miracle rescue.
You produced Ninja 2, The Shadow of a Tear. I'm a huge Scott Adkins fan. What was that experience like, and how was he to work with?
Scott Adkins is a professional. He's fantastic. His martial arts skill is above and beyond most actors I've worked with, and he was so dedicated to his art. And he was on set every day, stretching, getting ready for those punches. And I can tell you, there's no harder working action actor than Scott Adkins. And I'm surprised he hasn't had his own kind of John Wick movie, to himself. Maybe he needs a franchise all of his own. But certainly, I did the sequel to Ninja, which I kind of guess is one of Scott Adkins' franchises. And I hope there might be more. Maybe he'll ask me to come and produce Ninja 3 if I get a chance.
That would be awesome. What do you have coming up next?
So I'm doing my next movie is also based on a true story. I'm kind of drawn to these, to these real stories, I guess. I'm making a true crime thriller. It's called Kiss of the Con Queen. It's about a con artist who dupes a whole bunch of actors to audition for phony films in Jakarta, Indonesia. And of course, he's pretending to be a Hollywood exec, a female Hollywood exec, and he basically scams them for money. And it's again based on a true story, and I think it'll be a very interesting film, much like Inventing Anna and Tinder Swindler, these films that you've seen lately about scam and con artists.
Are you in the writing process, pre-production? Have you already filmed it?
We're actually in pre-production on that movie, so we'll be shooting by the end of October.
Okay, maybe expect it sometime in 2023 or maybe early 2024.
I hope so. Maybe from a year from now. Look out for it.
Excellent. Do you plan on continuing to make films in Thailand, or are there other places you'd like to make films?
Sure. Well, I mean, even though I'm sort of based in Bangkok, and I'm born here, and I have my mother's from Chiang Mai in the north, so I very much enjoy making films out here. I think we have amazing, I've got an amazing team, and I'm using the same team of working on my next project, Kiss of the Con Queen. And even though that's set in Jakarta, we're probably going to do a lot of the shooting in Thailand. So I enjoy making films out here. I think it's a great place. If you've got any filmmakers in the audience, tell them to come to Thailand. This is the place to make your film.
Certainly a beautiful country. Tom, I thank you for your time today. The movie is Cave Rescue. It'll be out in select theaters and on VOD this Friday, August 5th. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Alec.
Thank you.